Welcome. So glad you could join us for our aftercare program here at CareNet. We're here to help anyone who has had an abortion in their past and have been plagued with the many emotional side effects. I'm here to share my testimony with you, and I'm just happy you're here because you do matter, and we do everything confidentially. If you call or contact us through email, it'll all be confidential. No one will have to know your name. But if you do want to call back, I need your zip code so I know which area code or which time zone you're in so I can call you back and not in the middle of the night. I'm here to tell you about my abortion. I'm just going to share a small little piece of it, but I was 15 and had an unwanted pregnancy. No one was there to support me. My parents wanted an abortion. My medical doctor thought it was good I had an abortion. And so I followed through. And that day I went to the abortion clinic. It was cold. It was very mechanical. And I left with a broken heart and a lot of emotional baggage that I had never dreamed I would have because they told me it was a quick fix. So there I am, going through all these emotions, not telling anyone. They told me to keep it a secret. And do you know what? Secrets are easy to keep, but they keep us in bondage. And I was in bondage for many years because I wouldn't tell anyone. And I wouldn't tell anyone how I was feeling. And I didn't know that some of these things that I was feeling was the result of the abortion. I remember when I had my first child, I was laying in bed, and the nurse said, "Oh, let's take a survey." And so when she went to say, "Is this your first child?" I said, "Yes," because it was to me. And she said, "Oh, I see you had an abortion." And I wanted to scream and holler with tears running down my face. I didn't think anybody would know. I thought this was the quick fix. So let me go on to share a little bit of the different emotions and the different side effects to all this. And we will talk more later of my testimony. So the first part of it is, do I need aftercare? Some emotional effects. Well, the ones that jump out at you, those are the ones that usually are affecting you. So you want to have a notebook and just write it down a little bit so we could talk later. The first one was guilt and shame, depression and crying, intense grief and sadness, anger and rage. I dealt with all four of these in a very intense way. I cried and cried for days, weeks, months, years, and I couldn't fill that hole inside of me. There was just something I lost when I walked out of that abortion clinic. I couldn't tell anybody, I had no one to talk to, no one understood my story. So I found an aftercare program and I heard many stories of women who've had the same experience. Number 5 is drug and alcohol abuse, emotional numbness, nightmares, and self-esteem. I dealt with some alcohol, emotional numbness I've had for years. The low self-esteem, I just had no self-esteem. I just felt like I was unworthy. I was a senior in high school and I was the homecoming queen. And instead of being joyful and happy, here's what I thought. If they would have never voted for me if they knew I aborted my baby. Not too happy, was I? Eating disorders, suicidal urges, sexual problems, and inability to forgive yourself. I dealt with eating disorders. I had suicidal urges. I had intimacy problems in my marriage once I finally got married. And the inability to forgive myself, well, let me just say it was 11 years or more before I came to a program and realized that I could forgive myself and I could let all this go. So I'm here to tell you that you're not alone. The desire to become pregnant again and the problems having children physically and emotionally is another two that some women deal with. I don't think I dealt with that in an intense way, but every one was just a little bit. I had a little bit of those. So, do you need to continue the aftercare process? Take time to ponder these questions, and of course, you can't circle the ones on your screen, but you could write them down, the numbers, and then go back and review them if you need to, or you can always call, text, or email me. Do you find yourself struggling to turn off the feelings connected to your abortion, or do you find your self-talk telling yourself over and over again to forget it? I couldn't forget it. I don't know about you, but I just couldn't forget it. When the word abortion is used, do you find yourself running out of the room, uh, tightness in your chest, You hold your breath, even when it's on the media, like TV or radio. They talk about it. I would just tense, freeze, have a panic attack, and out the door I would go. I just couldn't hear the word and function. Are you affected by physical reminders of your abortion, babies, pregnant women, babies' clothes, or children? Some women are, some women aren't. Do certain times of the year trigger you with depression or sickness, such as anniversary dates of the abortion or children's expected birthdays? I know mine was in the fall, so fall's a hard time for me. I tend to get a little bit more on the depression side and sadness after the abortion, where I never had it before. Does resentment or unforgiveness plague you towards anyone which is involved with your abortion? Parents, boyfriends, the abortionist, friends, or husband? I had a lot of unforgiveness, 11 years of it. It was really, really bad. And we will talk more about that in lesson 3 when we talk about letting go of our anger. Did your attitudes towards relationships change after your abortion? Did you avoid relationships or have a difficulty with intimacy? Most relationships don't last after an abortion. I'm sad to say, the statistics prove that most people do break up. And it's not just the women, it's the men too that struggle with a lot of this. Are you faced with another unwanted pregnancy? Have you rationalized why life is better without the child in your life today? Has substance abuse plagued you or increased? Has depression and suicidal thoughts plagued you? Once again, I did struggle with a lot of depression and suicidal thoughts. Have you experienced hallucinations, flashbacks, or nightmares, or heard babies crying related to the abortion? I've heard of some women that have really gone through this, and it's very traumatic. Has emptiness or a deep sense of loss plagued your soul? I dealt with that for years. It took many, many years of feeling lonely, and I still have a special place in my heart for my aborted baby. Does sorrow, anger, and guilt overcome you when you talk about your abortion? It did in the beginning, but the more I talk and the more I help women with this, it's not near as hard as it was in the beginning. Are you compelled to tell about your abortion or conceal it from everyone? I told no one, not one soul, the whole 11 years of my life afterwards. Some people do, a lot of people don't. Are you driven to succeed in career or education? Do you strive to make your relationship successful to prove the abortion was the right choice? Sometimes we replace all that energy we are feeling inside and we put it into our careers or our relationships or our education. And do you have difficult time bonding with your children? Do you smother them with love and overprotect them? I had a real hard time bonding with my children. If you're childless, do you fear that you would never have children? I know there's some women that physically were harmed when they had the abortion and they weren't able to have children. Did you stop growing emotionally after your abortion or begin repeating harmful patterns? I became very withdrawn, and it took years for me to overcome this. Are you punishing yourself or denying yourself? Does an eating disorder plague you? I dealt with that quite a bit. And I'll tell you more in a couple of the other lessons. Is life in sections before the abortion and after the abortion? Has your self-esteem changed? I would say when I was 15, it felt like life stopped. And then I finally worked through some of the areas of abortion, and then life began again. And yes, my self-esteem was totally changed after I had the abortion. Is death and dying preoccupation? And are your abortion memories more painful than the actual experience? I can actually say that my experience with the abortion was very painful physically, but emotionally, I carried around the baggage of guilt and shame, of unworthiness, of thinking God would never, never, ever love me ever again. So if you need to speak with me or someone is available, there's an email on the bottom of the screen and a number that you can text or call. Feel free. We are here to help you. You matter. there's other women that are willing to share their stories as well as we continue on these lessons. There's about 6 lessons total. And the next lesson, lesson 2, is your story does matter. And there's power in putting your story to words or to a listening ear. So I ask that you would just contact us if you would like, or I'm available anytime. And I just so appreciate you finding us and working through these lessons in your aftercare program. Bye now.